Our audience are, filmmakers who are probably at the moment facing a decision if they've just completed their film. And the decision is really between two choices. One is to go with a distributor, such as yourself,
Right?
and the other is to upload their film on a platform such as Film Hub or go for an
Mhm.
aggregator and try to
Sure.
self-distribute themselves. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about what are the pros and cons of going with a distributor like yourself, and for who that is the right choice, and for whom might be a better choice to maybe go down the self-distribution route?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm a big proponent of self distribution. I actually contribute to a lot of filmmaker forums, Facebook. I've talked about this on podcasts and things like that. Here's what I'd say about. Let's talk about a little bit about the self distribution model first, because I like to always kind of peel back the layers of the onion, because I think there's still a lot of misunderstanding about what that means. Because a lot of filmmakers who have kind of gotten disillusioned with traditional distribution, which I absolutely understand. I don't blame them. I'm disillusioned by it by myself. It's part of the reason we went into this space, because as an independent producer who's produced a lot of projects, who's had to be on the other side of negotiating deals with distributors, I often found myself disappointed, and I'll get back to that in a minute as to what those disappointments were. But when it comes to self distribution, whether you're going to Film Hub, you're going to go to Premiere, you're going to go to Bitmax, whatever it is, here's the thing. I mean, you're literally just paying them a fee to place your film on platforms, right? That's the extent of it. So, in a circumstance like that, you have to go into this with your eyes wide open. You are now the distributor. All that aggregation company is doing for you is facilitating placement on platforms, which is, listen, it's a big step. It's great to get your films on the platforms, but there's so much more to it, right? And I've seen so many complaints about aggregators about, oh, they don't do anything for my film, or I got a payment for $5 from Amazon. This sucks. Well, here's the reality. The reality is that their job isn't to do anything for your film other than put it on the platforms. So now you have to be your PR person. You have to be your digital marketer. You have to be the person who is now out there pushing, pressing, placing digital ads on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, whatever it is, right? You're the one that has to keep pushing to see what platforms are working, which aren't. What other platforms can you get on through your aggregator? Now you have taken on the responsibility of having to do something that a good distributor, I use the word good, and I'll get to that in a second, but a good distributor is going to take care of all of that for you. Also, dealing with issues and problems. I mean, a lot of times with these aggregators, here's the truth, they are overwhelmed. They are overwhelmed. A lot of things that people don't understand in this business is that ag- independent filmmakers are not the only ones using aggregators. Distributors are using aggregators at the highest level. And that is because the platforms have put us in that position. The platforms themselves do not have the bandwidth to take on all of these individual accounts. They cannot do it. So aggregation was initially born out of this necessity for the major platforms to not have to deal with all of these studios, whether it was a tiny independent, whether it was a massive company, a television network, whatever it is. The filmmaker angle sort of came along as a business model from the aggregation companies. So now you have, aggregation companies, they have thousands and thousands and thousands of films that they are managing between independent filmmakers, between major studios, between boutique companies like mine, between the television networks. So you're also seeing a complaint from a lot of filmmakers. Oh, I'm not getting the service I feel like I should get. I'm not getting enough attention. It takes too long for me to get an email back. Nobody will explain something to me. Well, again, that is kind of, you know, part of the downfall that you walk into when going with a self distribution model. You need to own the responsibility that you are now wearing all the hats as the distributor, as the marketing person. You're that person. And if you're not prepared to do that, if you think that you're just going to drop your film on some platforms and it's going to magically take off, well, you're going to have, you know, a reality check relatively quick. Because here's the other problem, And this is not an aggregation problem per se. This is a general problem. The platforms are overwhelmed. I mean, listen, go on to Tubi, go on to Amazon, go on to any of your favorite platforms. There is so much content, it's overwhelming. Most of it you've never heard of, right? I mean, it's endless because think about it. Not only are all the major platforms allowing uploads from independent filmmakers, boutique distributors, all the major players, but then a lot of them are making their own content, right? So think about that sea of content that is on these platforms. It's mind numbing. So the idea that you think that your film is going to just catch fire magically because you dropped it onto Amazon, you dropped it on the Tubi, is living in a fantasy land, right? I mean, look, the truth is that we have films that maybe I personally think are a cut above that are struggling. While there's other films that maybe I personally might not think are my personal taste of better films that are overperforming, right? Here's the difference. And now we'll talk a little bit about coming to a company like mine. And it's not just about distribution. It's about, I look at it as a real true partnership. And I think if you were to talk to any of our filmmakers that are under our banners, uh, they would be able to explain that as well, and what that means. And that we are in this with our filmmakers together. Um, there's a few things that make us different as a company. Number one, we're not a high volume company. So to use a company as an example, like a Gravitas Ventures. Okay, Gravitas Ventures has been around for a few more years before us. I've done business with them as a producer. I have nothing bad to say about them. They've always reported, they've always paid, but they also really don't do anything for my films, right? They never did, and that's kind of a general rule. But you're also talking about a monster of a machine, right? Putting out 100, 125, 150 titles a year into the digital space, right? It's just a churn and burn machine. And you take a company like ours on the other side of it. Uh, Last year, between two labels, because we do have a sister label that deals with award-winning documentaries, we put out 45 films between two labels, right? And the difference is that everything is in-house. We have in-house marketing and PR. Like Sarah, our VP of marketing, she handles the press releases. She handles all the posts, all of the paid digital ads. It's a very fostered process. We guarantee that you're going to get marketing. We guarantee that you're going to get, your film pushed out there. We also do things a little bit differently with our rollout, right? So for example, with us, we're not going to drop your film on like 14 platforms out of the gate, right? We're going to drop it on 2 or 3. And then over many weeks and many months, we're gonna put it on another platform and put it on another one and another one, and we're gonna keep promoting your film every time that it hits a new platform. So I think really the big difference between us and other distributors is a few things. One, we are genre specific, right? So when you come to us, you know that we are a horror-based genre company. We're not putting out comedies. We're not putting out dramas. This is what we do. We have an established brand now, so people know Terror Films. Anybody that were to go to our website and go to the news section of our website, they'll see that there is not a major player that's in the horror space that doesn't cover us. Everybody covers us, from Bloody Disgusting to iHeart to Rue Morgue to Fangoria, up and down the ladder, even Variety and Deadline. I mean, we've been covered by the New York Times. So, so very specific in that sense. We guarantee the marketing. We guarantee the PR. We're very hands-on with our filmmakers. We want our filmmakers involved, right? When it comes to the promotion and marketing, we're like, look, do you have somebody in your cast that maybe has a pretty heavily followed social media? What can we do for them? Can we make a special clip just for them to incentivize them to promote? So there's just a lot that we do that really goes above and beyond to get these films out there. Because here's what I believe that our job is, right? Our job is not to judge your film, right? It's not what we do, right? Our job is to kind of look at some basics, like, hey, does your film meet, and check some specific boxes as far as is it well shot? Is it well acted? Does it have a clear beginning, middle, and end? Because I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, nobody knows shit in this business. Nobody. I don't care at the highest level. Paramount Pictures, Disney, I don't care. Nobody knows anything. We're making educated guesses, because the truth is, if there was a handbook, if we knew what made a film successful, if we knew what made a film work, there'd never be a failed film again. Never. There'd never be a failed film again, right? Look what we have happening. $150 million movies are going straight to digital platforms now, right? um, Falling on their face, not making it in the box office, movie stars, $100 million in P&A. So for filmmakers to think they're going to come along with their, $50,000 horror movie and it's going to be some mad, wild success out of the gate is not necessarily grounded in reality. But our job is to take your film, make sure it gets a good release, make sure we're pushing for the press, make sure we're pushing for the social media presence, making sure that the audience at large, the horror fan base audience at large, knows that it's out there. Now, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier about how much content is on these platforms and that you haven't heard it about most of it, right? Our job is to make sure your film gets found, right? And this is why we do the elongated rollout too, because look, out of sight, out of mind, on to the next thing. But when we're still placing films on new platforms 5, 6, 7, 8 months later, it gives us an opportunity to keep reminding the followers, the fans, hey, this film is out there. Did you miss the last 10 posts about it? Hey, now it's on Film Is Now, but it's also on Amazon. It's also on Roku. It's also on Apple. Wherever you want to find it, here's where it is. Here's where you can go check it out. And that's our job. Our job is to be your partner, to be your cheerleader, and to really push and promote and get your films out there and have the audience find them. But one of the things that I always like to try and ground our filmmakers in, and I talk about it all the time, is that at some point, no matter what we do, no matter how hard we work, no matter how many platforms we put your film on, even if you get great reviews, whatever it is, at some point we're handing the baby and the bathwater over to the audience at large, right? At some point it's out of our hands, right? And so our job though is to get it found and get people talking about it and hopefully getting a positive reaction and getting eyeballs on it and getting it on as many platforms as possible so that we're really starting to generate not just awareness, but ultimately revenue streams. Let's talk about that. We're in business. We're in business together, right? The way our model is built also is that you're not sitting behind $20,000, $30,000 of magical nonsense expenses. We don't work that way. So if your film's not making any money, guess what? We're not making any money. And how are we going to stay in business if we're not doing our job and if we're not doing what we need to do? So I think those are some of the things that really kind of help us stand out among the masses in kind of a sea of distribution choices.
Yeah, and I think I'm personally I'm convinced